Okay.
All right, we are live and waiting for folks. We'll get started here in just another minute or so. Please hang tight. All right. Cool. We'll go ahead and get started. Perfect. Well, welcome everybody to another session of Public Input Live. You've got myself, Michael Murphy, and
Sophie.
nice. That's not how we normally open it, so I totally threw it for a loop. So I'm partnerships director over here, and what we'll be doing today is talking about best practices when it comes to public engagement. The Public Input Platform has been used on about 8,000 engagement efforts over the last several years. And through that process and our success team and solution architects and the consultants that are using our platform, we've learned a lot of lessons. And what we've done is build out solutions to overcome some of those challenges so that you can deploy best practices with the Public Input Platform. What we're going to be doing today is talking a little bit about those best practices, mainly talking about comments, comment responses we're going to get into, comment tagging, comment coding, and then how you can kind of visualize qualitative data and turn it into quantitative data so that you can do something with it and make better decisions. And then with that kind of introduction of myself and what we'll be going over here today, I'll let Sophie introduce herself.
Yeah, hey everyone, Sophie Batar here. I am a solutions architect at Public Input. So I work with the sales team and I work with prospective customers just to kind of hear their needs, understand what they're looking for in a software like ours, and hopefully outfit some of our solutions that we offer here to fit those needs.
Fantastic. Sophie does an excellent job helping clients really unlock the potential of what they could do with tools like ours. So that's exciting to have her on board and have her helping our clients as well. So today we'll be, as I said, we'll be talking about our sessions here are typically around 20 minutes or so. We try to be fast. We do this live every Friday. So we're glad that you joined us here today. I want to do a little bit of high level about, kind of why public input, why public engagement, besides the fact that it's required sometimes, right? But here's the thing is that we fundamentally believe that public engagement, if done correctly, can increase public trust. Now, there's ways that you can do public engagement that does not increase public trust. In fact, actually sows seeds of division when it's not equitable, when people don't feel heard. Those things want to avoid at all costs. So what can we do to be able to have solutions and what do I want to say? Solutions and strategies to make sure that we kind of support public engagement that actually builds public trust. There's a couple of quotes on here, and I won't go through all of them, but I want to talk about kind of the overall picture, this real simplistic view that we have, kind of a real distilled down view of public engagement, meaning four main parts, meaning outreach, reach people, meet them where they are, like regardless of their access to internet, regardless of their language barriers, income level, all those things. How can we reach those people and get out in front of them? And then also, how can we get information back from them? And then obviously, once you have those pieces, you're going to be looking at that. You're trying to tease out learnings. You're trying to understand what people need, what the community needs, what their concerns are, what they're looking for. And then there's a really important piece here is close the feedback loop. Actually go back out to them and let them know what you've heard from them. If anybody that's done any kind of planning, a lot of consultants that may be on this call, any planning, there's always multiple phases of engagement. It's like first phase, gather, this is what we hear, what do you think, here's our options, and then a final one where it's like, hey, based on everything we've learned, we've gone back out. So it's kind of a normal process, but we don't always close the feedback loop. And if we don't, then it can leave people feeling like they haven't been heard, or maybe their opinion doesn't matter because they just threw a comment out in the void and they never heard anything back. So we've got some solutions to be able to help with that. We'll be going over some of that here today. So without further ado, let's get into the content of what what we get into. And I'll turn it over to Sophie to share her screen as we dive into comment coding and how we can manage comments in a way that's a little bit more efficient.
Yeah. So just to kind of frame this up a little bit, and I think you touched on that a bit, Murphy, too. So usually, today, if you don't have a tool that's able to kind of aggregate all these comments, and you think about the time and the process it takes to do that manually, or do that, with a bunch of other disjointed tools, it can be a very long, tedious process. So our platform actually just piles all of those comments for you together across any or every channel it was received from. So anything anyone wrote in the comment box, or either on the online survey or while watching a meeting, any comments from social media, and of course any comment that came in via email, phone, or text, even if it was an offline entry, it's still kind of come back into this comments tab and live with the rest of the other comments. So with that that aggregation process out of the way, you can actually come in here and focus on what folks are saying. How are they engaging with the information? Do they have questions or concerns? If we're trying to just get like a sense of how the community feels on a particular topic, how do we quantify that? So in this comments tab here, there's a couple of tools we can use to do that. So we've got this sentiment bar, so we can take a look and see what the positive sentiment is across all of these comments. We can see what the neutral sentiment is. So it looks like we've got mostly neutral sentiment for this particular survey we did. And then, of course, what the negative sentiment is. And maybe we can use this to kind of come in here, and maybe we see that there is some particularly negative sentiment in one of these questions from our survey here. So what we can click on this and drill down a little bit further. And maybe we see that, folks they have questions, they have concerns, or maybe there's some kind of misinformation circling around in these comments around a particular issue. What we can do is actually tag these. So this is just like a little, dessert preference survey that we did for our demo account here. So this information is going to be kind of
not a real thing, but I guess you could if you wanted to do a quick survey on like which desserts are best.
Yeah, definitely. So it looks like from these comments, folks are mentioning desserts a lot. So let's go ahead and tag this. If a comment contains dessert, we'll automatically tag it with dessert. So we can categorize these. And let's apply that, and we'll see it will apply that tag to all of those comments that fit that category. So we can now track this, and it's also going to create a bubble on our word cloud here.
Yeah, I want to pause for a second and say, like, that is super helpful in cases where you've received a ton of different comments. A couple of things I want to address here that I think are important that folks know is, Sophie had mentioned that regardless of how those comments come in, and if you've been hanging out with us on these live sessions, then you know about how emails that come in can automatically be transcribed and added to your comment database. How you can use, web comment forms so people can comment there. How you can allow text in comments or phone in comments. All of that is being transcribed and going here. Also, regardless of the language. So sometimes what ends up happening is you've got multiple languages in there. You try to create a comment cloud, doesn't quite work because of the fact that you've got multiple languages. If you are using our platform, one of the cool things is we'll actually translate everything back into English. And so you'll see that it's been translated, so you can see the original. But when you're creating your comment clouds, you don't have multiple languages that you need to be mindful of. It'll all be basically in one language, can be a big help. And then lastly, if people spell desserts incorrectly, and they might have spelled deserts instead of desserts, for example, some people might do that, I don't know. But so But if so, you could actually still go through and read all these comments and manually tag comments as well. So if you wanted to do that manual tagging one by one, you're able to do that. Completely doable for a project like this, but if you maybe have 6, 7, 8, 12,000 comments, it may be a little bit more difficult. So you do have a number of different options you can use. I just want to highlight a couple of things. I've talked to consultants in the past about the fact that they really felt like the need was to read every comment and then tag it manually. And I have other consultants that say like, hey, I just need broad strokes across this and try to get like, kind of get themes, and it doesn't need to be as specific. So depending on the type of work you're doing, you can apply the platform in either of those.
Yeah, that's great. Thanks for elaborating on that a little bit. There's a lot of different options that you can do with these comments here.
Oh yeah.
So hide some comments if it, if it's got some profanity in it, or it just kind of it doesn't add to the conversation. Maybe it's a little bit irrelevant, and we don't want to show it publicly. We can always choose to hide or show those comments, and then highlight any comments as well. So lots of different.
And those. Go ahead.
Yep, that was all I was gonna say.
Yeah, I was gonna say the little head there is like a sentiment. That's the sentiment tag, and you can actually change that sentiment tag. So if it was tagged incorrectly because it saw a bunch of exclamation points and the system thought that it was a negative comment, you can actually be like, oh no, this person's just really excited. So that is actually a positive comment. You can change it, and the system will keep learning as you manually adjust those if you need to. So that's a big plus. The other thing about the visual thing that you had showed, if you hung out with us in session 2, we showed that you can do automatic toxicity filter on comments. So as people are typing, a little bubble pops up that says like, hey, you're dropping F-bombs and this isn't going to post publicly, but it will be sent in. And so what happens is you'll actually see those here as not shown publicly. It'll have the little red cross across the eye to let you know that it's not been shown publicly. And if you want to, you can always just unclick that, and then it will show up publicly on like a project page if you're showing public comments or whatever that may be. So
absolutely. Let me pull up a real life example here just to kind of bring it home here. So Hillsborough County in Florida, they were seeking some feedback. I think initially when COVID had, on the first onset of the COVID outbreak here, tons of comments. They got almost 9,000 here. So, without an engine that's going to be able to aggregate those comments and then, have some tools that are built in to really understand these comments, that would be super hard to manage that. But no worries. They created a word cloud here. They could track all of the most common issues. So it looks like folks are, worried about testing with COVID and wearing masks and stuff like that. So they could track any one of these bubbles, and maybe they saw that folks had particular questions or concerns around an issue, and they created a bubble with it. So if we wanted to, we could. Let me click on maybe a smaller bubble that won't take.
That's the one I was actually just looking at. That was weird. Sounds like information. They must want maybe more information. So let's provide more information to these people.
So I clicked on that information bubble, and maybe we want to. Folks have questions. So what we can actually do is use this to select multiple comments or select all comments that fit within this category. And we can reply to multiple comments at a time, just offering a message of clarification or clearing up some, concerns or maybe some misunderstandings. So we can really get out ahead of those, that type of stuff using this particular feature right here. So it's just great. And we can kind of customize, who it comes from. And then we can also send folks, if they've left their email address, it's great. We can actually send them an email directly to let them know that their comment was responded to. And even if they didn't provide their email address, that's fine. We won't be able to send them an email notification, but it will still respond to their comment back on the survey page. So others coming to that page will be able to see that, we're responding, we're following up. So.
Yeah. And I will say, if you decided not to post, allow comments to post publicly, when they post their comment, they can still see it there themselves. And so they can still see their comment and your response, but they won't see other folks' comments. There's a number of ways that you can manage the visibility there. But I know sometimes folks, they just don't want like people seeing other folks' comments or their replies. So you do have some controls available to you as a user.
Yeah, absolutely. So that is all I had to show in terms of comments today. Anything else, Murphy, that you wanted to add to this?
No, I think we covered most of it. Obviously, just being able to tease out some information, create these comment clouds. Oh, reporting. We are in analyze or analysis part of it. Yeah, this is the other thing I wanted to show. That's perfect.
Yep. Yeah, you can add these word clouds directly to a report that will go out to, like council members or the mayors, city managers, whatever kind of stakeholder that might be interested or might need to see this information. This is something you can add directly to a report, so it's pretty neat, pretty nifty. We don't have to go and build this out again on the back end.
Yeah, we'll be getting into actually building reports, and we'll show you exactly what that looks like here coming up not too long. We'll be in one of these sessions here in the next couple of sessions. We'll be actually showing you what it looks like to actually build out a report. And you can see how you can very quickly add these types of comment clouds to share information with folks. Instead of trying to share all comments, you could share something like this as an alternative. Yeah, can you scroll down a little bit? I wanted to show just a couple things on the comments. Do we have any comments here that were received by text message or received by email?
Yes.
And excuse the scroll. I know sometimes, hey, that's a great one. So this is an example of a comment that was received via text message. And so this shows that if you're using different tools, you can actually create opportunities for people to engage, and that data all going to one place, so it doesn't become a nightmare to manage that. And so there's one that came in from text. If it came in through email, it would have a little email button there. If it's translated, it would show that it have a little translated button next to it. But they received so many comments, we'd probably be scrolling for days to find all those different examples. But actually, Sophie, that was a perfect one you found there, because that's just, you can get an idea of what this looks like. You know where it came from by that little tag there, and also if it's been translated or not.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and even social media comments, even comments that were pulled in that were made. Maybe maybe you pushed out a targeted ad on social media, advertising the link to the online survey, or maybe the text version of the survey. And folks didn't take that extra time to go and actually go to the link and leave their comment on the survey itself, but they left it directly on the post on Facebook, for example. No worries, we can actually bring those comments in as well, and scrub that comment section down just to because it could be relevant.
Yeah,
yeah,
definitely. That's actually talking about best practices. That's one right there. That is something that people do, is sometimes you'll ask maybe the first question of a survey series in your Facebook post, like, what's most, I saw one that was like a vision plan. It's like, when you think of the city, what are the 3 words that you think of, right? And that was the question in the survey, but they actually made a post that said the same thing. And when people were responding to that post, they were actually populating a response to the first question of the survey as well, because the way that we were able to hook up comments here count as responses to this survey question. And so you were able to get a little bit deeper or alternative ways to get that same information. And then again, it all going to one place. So that's it's a great way to get engagement too, because some people will post a couple things and tag a friend and do whatever else. That's what social is good for, is socializing and getting the word out.
Yeah, that's a great example. Yeah, awesome way to get engagement that's almost kind of passively in a way. So
yeah, and also it's we know how hard it can be to get attention. If you're a practitioner, you may stand on the side of on the corner and try to get passersby to take a quick survey or something, and you spend a couple hours out there and you get 10 surveys. It's like, hey, that's a pretty costly per survey response. If you use social media, sometimes you can actually fund those with pretty, like, $200. You can get hundreds of people to click your site and actually go in and take the survey and that sort of thing. So it's a pretty low cost way to do that. And you can actually execute all that within the public input platform, actually send out those and schedule those posts, that sort of thing. So awesome. got a little bit deeper into some random stuff, but I can just geek out on this stuff. But the goal of this was to show show how you can manage comments, do comment coding, comment tagging. It doesn't have to be such a headache and a bear when you're doing it. You can streamline the process, do easy follow-up, close the feedback loop. Those things are all important when it comes to increasing public trust. And as we kind of close out this session and we think about what's coming up next, can you, Sophie, elaborate on what we'll be getting into next week?
Yeah, definitely. So next week we'll still be in Analyze, but we'll talk about participant mapping, how to use that as another tool within your kind of analysis, how useful that is to measure equity within your participation. We'll show how that's done, and then we'll talk about some applications of it, how you can use it when you're applying for grants, because we know that federal funding is going to be coming down pretty soon from that the infrastructure bill that was passed. So yeah, so that's what's up. That's what's coming up next. Stay tuned.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, thank you. That was perfect because I'm glad we're doing that one next. It's actually perfect timing because there was so much interest in the webinar we just did. And when we started showing the mapping, I was getting LinkedIn messages and emails. Someone's like, can we use that on our project? It's like, yeah, we can show you exactly how you can add these layers to your maps and understand the community with a lot more context. Even before you start your engagement, or if it's after your engagement, you can understand where your engagement comes from, even if they didn't answer like demographic data, right? But you can understand, maybe the community that they may live in, like limited English proficiency. So in that community, we may need multilingual options. Yeah, those types of things. So perfect. That's awesome. Super timely. I'm glad we queued that one up next. And as we close out here, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen, go back to where we were, and just say thank you so much for watching today, for participating with us. If you are a user, or even if you're not a user of Public Input, we do have a certification program that you can get involved in. You just go to publicinput.com/get certified. So a little bit of an information about it there. And if you choose to, you can apply. And there's a little bit of a process that we go through. But we'd love to have you on board to get comfortable with the platform and learn how you can actually execute some of these best practices leveraging the platform. So welcome you to that link. Also welcome you to reach out to myself. You can always reach me at michael@publicinput.com. And I save Sophie from being on there as well. If you need something, you can get a hold of me. But you don't have to be too creative to figure out what Sophie's email probably is. But anyways, we thank you so much for joining us here today. We hope to see you again here next week, same time, same page, same URL. And until then, we wish you super successful engagements.